There is an old proverb which goes something like this. If one sleeps with a serpent, one wakes up with fangs in one's neck. The simple interpretation of this old proverb may be that trusting the wrong people can be extremely dangerous for those who venture to trust the wrong people. So it is today in our current world, when two nations born of the same father Abraham are fighting against each other because they themselves fail to recognize the importance of peace and natural justice. I'm of course referring to no other place than the Middle East today. Even today, I heard that a certain group known as Hezbollah attacked parts of Israel. Only over the last weekend, some 134 individuals, and perhaps the number is likely to rise, were killed by terrorists who came again from an extremely radical Islamic fraction known as ISIS, or the groups belonging to the Islamic Republic. Some 35,000 people alone in Gaza, also known as Judea and Samaria, had to pay very dearly with their lives because some extremists calling themselves or perhaps even called by the rest of the world Hamas, or perhaps even more correctly Hamas, trespassing onto the soil of Israel, abducting, violating, murdering people on 7th of October of the past year, 2023, raised attention, compelling the state of Israel to retaliate, and instead of releasing the hostages, they make their demands, which are probably not acceptable because such demands are not reasonable and thus ought to be considered by the rest of the world. A victimized state cannot submit itself to the wrongful demands of terrorists. We all know the value of peace, how important it is for our world even today at this very moment. But peace cannot be achieved under threat by terrorists. Not merely a single threat, but perhaps threats in plural, by various groups of terrorists, which instead of trying to move the group known as Hamas to surrender and to ensure that those detainees are returned to Israel, are provoking the state of Israel to destroy the people of Gaza or Judea and Samaria. It is totally unacceptable if the world community condemns Israel. When Israel is trying to free its own nationals, its own state's citizens, its own people, and to ensure that they are no longer under the threats caused by terrorists. Israel did not begin this war. Hamas did. And I believe and remain convinced upon sufficient inferences that certain greater powers, states which condemn even the legitimate rights of babies, children, and women, was behind such an attack, who probably also remain answerable for today's attack by Hezbollah upon Israel. I'm referring to this very day, the 27th March of the current Gregorian year 2023, Wednesday, the very middle of the week. I fail to understand how even the closest allies of the State of Israel are turning their backs upon the victimized State of Israel, forgetting the danger they themselves are likely to face in future. I begin to query whether those states have forgotten what occurred upon their own soil. For instance, an incident known as 9/11, followed by the incident caused in a metro railway station in another country, and another one in a railway station, followed by even in our own country, when many individuals, including foreign citizens and nationals, were killed by terrorists, even on the soil of our own country, India, close to so-called Taj Hotel. We have no justification of condemning a victimized state which tries to protect its own citizens against any future consequences caused by terrorism. On the contrary, it becomes our duty to persuade those mighty states not merely to refrain from helping the terrorists, but also to persuade the terrorists to stop attacking peaceful states, democratic states like the State of Israel. It is always not merely sad but tragic when people die in the hands of terrorists, as it happened during the past weekend, even in the Russian Federation, as it happened on September the 11th of the Gregorian year 2021 in the cities known as New York and Washington, District of Columbia, as it happened shortly thereafter in London, as it happened thereafter in Spain, and also in India. We must unite and merely come forward, but not simply by words, but by deeds, to discourage terrorism in our world. We must act unitedly, forgetting our self-interests and selfishness only. The very state which was attacked by terrorists only a few days ago, losing more than 130 of its own citizens, was one of those states to speak out against the state of Israel only a few weeks earlier. But again, the Almighty does not simply sit back, but teaches us lessons. Lessons which we need to learn in order to refrain from committing acts based upon our own folly, our own foolishness. So it is my very heartfelt yet sad message of this very night. The night crossing from Wednesday to Thursday in my country, or even more correctly, the night from the 27th to the 28th of March of the current Gregorian year 2024. I bid all of you a very solemn and thoughtful night, and thank you in anticipation for your kind understanding, while bidding you the protection of the same Creator who created all of us, even the very victims concerned. Good night. God bless.